Welcome to my logo still there. Hey, welcome to Modern Art Blitz. My name is Mat Gleason. I am your host for how do you like my haircut, by the way?
Damn, Matt, that is the best look. You've gone back to
back to the red
from and jeez.
So it was this crazy of a week. That's the only way to explain it. So so we're still living here in the bubble, and we have a extra special episode of Modern Art Blitz tonight with numerous guests from inside and outside the bubble. And but we're going to stay in the bubble for as long as we can. If 4 years, maybe 8. Oh, geez. Okay. So tonight on the show, we're going to be talking with our very, very special guest, Banjo. And next to Banjo is the inimitable Greg Escalante, a bon vivant if ever there was one. Of course, my wonderful co-host Lisa Derrick will be assisting us
as best I can
in our endeavor. And on Lisa's left, and I think politically on Lisa's left, is the wonderful Heidi Johnson, the greatest art manager that the city of Los Angeles, or the county of Los Angeles, or Southern California.
Or possibly all of California.
You get every electoral vote in this state. Let me tell you, we found out the hard way. You need them. Okay, so hey, basically we're looking at a sculpture back there of, would you call it a sculpture? I would call it a sculpture.
Yeah.
What do you call it, Banjo? Is this a sculpture of yours?
Yeah, I'd go with that. It's a pipe. It's a marijuana pipe.
It's an actual.
It's very sculptural.
It's functional.
Definitely.
If you want to.
First and foremost.
Where do you put the water?
Well, that top thing on there, you can see the little circle at the very top. It's kind of a tiara.
Yeah.
That actually is ornamental, and so that comes out.
Okay.
And then that's the mouthpiece. It's basically a bong, a really ornate bong with many, many, many pieces. That one there particularly is a collaboration between a master fume worker. That's a specific way of patterning glass and getting colors on the glass, named Kevin Nail. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's been working for 20 years. He's a legend. There's another couple aspects where there's some crystals on it that were carved on a lapidary wheel. They're glass crystals that were carved on a lapidary wheel and stuck to the top there by another friend, Jared DeLong. He's also a master of cold working, and a couple of helpers. So there's probably 5 people involved in that piece, but it's basically a DNA heliacal shape that goes from the base where the water is, and it's like a typical bong. It has a drop stem, just like slide it out, pull it out, and bubbles all the way up through.
How do you clean something like that?
Well, one way is just run under hot water, like put under hot water in the sink and just run it for a while, soak it in alcohol. Those are the two ways that I usually go for.
And how many mouthpieces are on this?
Just one.
Just one?
Yep.
Just one.
Yeah, it's
No
about
sharing.
this big. No, yeah, it's not a hookah.
And now, this is crossing the line between bong and it's now considered to be fine art. And you're showing it
that's nice of you.
Quite a prestigious gallery in Southern California.
That was nice of him.
The Gregorio Escalante Gallery. Greg, you are the proprietor of an art gallery. Are you radicalizing contemporary art by having bongs as fine art, or is this a trend?
Well, from my point of view, I just saw it mostly as art first because it just made sense to me because of also who he affiliates himself with, which is, and it's art that I've been paying attention to for a while, which is kind of the psychedelic visionary art, which is Alex Gray, Amanda Sage, Chris Dyer, Luke Brown. There's a whole group. I've been seeing these guys at Art Basel. They'll have their own little area doing things. It's just a facet of the art world that's totally relevant and really is art as far as art could be art. And the fact that he's definitely, Banjo's the guy that took it, maybe there's other people too that he collaborates with and he knows, but they've really taken it to another level that seems mostly sculpture, and the fact that it's a a bong or pipe or whatever is kind of secondary. When I was first doing the show, up until the last minute, I thought half of them were just sculptures. I didn't know they were all pipes.
They're all functional. Have you tried them all out?
No.
No. Have you tried them all out?
I've tried many of them out.
Many of them out?
Yeah.
Are there any virgins for sale?
Yeah, there's a couple virgins for sale right now in Long Beach, and a show tonight if anybody's around.
Where's the show? Where's the show tonight?
7 o'clock, Long Beach Funk Art Gallery.
At the Funk Art Gallery.
Yeah, it's a pretty new gallery.
But I'm sure you could Google it.
If you go to my Instagram, Banjo Glass, and just start looking at posts, you'll see links to this show. But it's a group show. Pretty sweet.
Wow.
There's a couple clean ones. Most of them
And the
sold
funk
last
is
night.
FUNC period. .com or something.
FUNC, like for functional.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
it's a
there is
play off.
certainly a function to your art.
Now, do you do other types of glass sculptures? Do you move into the more erotic, say, glass dildos, or
No, there's
or
a
just
short period
vases?
of time when the government busted. This is serious. I take it as a
Yeah.
serious question.
Yeah.
There's a serious time. I think it was 02 or 03 where John Ashcroft led a huge sting operation and just across the country busted a whole bunch of glass distributors and glass manufacturers.
Right.
And for a short time, some of my contemporaries began looking into dildo building and making. And luckily, it didn't really go anywhere, and I didn't
It's
I
rare
didn't
that people.
compromise my anything, and
Right.
it came and went, but no.
It's
Just
rare
made
that
pipes
people
the whole
move.
time.
It's rare that people move into dildos. Usually, the dildo moves into you. Oh! I just had to.
based on your personal experience,
Oh,
Matt?
Yeah, you're just
Present
right.
company included. So we're looking at now. This is a wild one. I
Yeah.
mean, this thing's
Wow.
on fire.
This is the most recent big one. She's called Isis Inanna Ina May, and she's basically the modern personification of the mother energy, the mother spirit, the mother earth Gaia. Originally in our first culture, we had the Sumerians, and their goddess was Inanna. And by the time that culture had moved into Egypt a few thousand years later, that same archetypical energy was referred to as Isis, and we see the depictions, and in that case, it's got the big wings. So now I see Ina May Gaskin, who not a lot of people are familiar who she is, but she's the mother of modern midwifery. And I have 6 kids. I've had them all at home. Ina May was basically a hippie in the 70s. Was very do-it-yourself and really pioneered the modern movement of taking birth back from the hospitals in Western science back into the home and putting the power back into the parents and into the human, faith in the human process. So this piece here was my attempt to bring. I'm speaking about her right now, and to bring her awareness of her and her work to people who might not otherwise know.
To manifest it.
Yeah. So I see her as, and it's funny, her name is Ina, which is so close to Inanna.
Yes.
And Isis, so, she embodies that now. And I
was
think
a
we need a
natural.
new mythos in these times. She is what I consider to be who we should be looking to if we need to look to somebody to embody these kinds of things. She's responsible for literally thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people feeling comfortable to take birth back from
the
hospital
medical
and-
establishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
What if there's a problem at birth, though? Do they
you're-
recognize it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it just depends. Some midwives are all the way over on like, we don't fucking need we're gonna do this. Some people do it themselves. I have friends that have delivered their own children up in the woods. They first had a few assisted births with midwives, but then later, they learn how to, if the cord's around the neck, and when we got here after thousands of years, men have really only been delivering babies in the last 100, and so. It's just it's a reconnection with a process of life that worked just fine for us. Our women's bodies worked just fine to having babies for the most part. For all of but to answer your question about the hospital, the midwives we worked with had good relationships with the hospital, and we were always pretty half hour away. And if it was sort of like maybe we should go to the hospital, right there, we'll head right down.
6 kids.
Yeah, and we were close with 2. I have one older daughter and with another wife, and my first wife, we're divorced now. I don't have 2 wives. But it comes out like that sometimes.
You can try.
Right? No. But with hers, we almost had to transport, and midwives was like, you need to make this happen quick. We're going, and what do you know? It worked, and we had it. And then also my first with my second wife, who I now have 5 with. Midway through that one, her first birth also was a little hairy, and the midwife said, "Hey, you can do a couple more pushes," and then I don't think we should. And again, it worked out. But
That last push is the hardest.
yeah. So
So any plans for 7?
No.
Okay, but then my mom's record
I figured it
is
out.
safe.
I learned it. I figured it out.
Figured it out.
Oh, your mom's got a record that needs to be broken, huh?
Well, you know. Oh, okay. So now, also guesting on our show today is wonderful Heidi Johnson. Heidi, you're on the art scene. You're everywhere. And do you consider bongs? I don't want like a political debate here. Are bongs fine art?
Absolutely. I actually wasn't, I've been an admirer of bongs for a long time.
What college did you go to?
But I had no idea that this sort of movement was happening. And right now I think because of what's happening in the marijuana industry and, all of that, I think it's made way for these, like artisan bongs. And when Greg brought this show up, I started doing a little bit of research, and I saw like what was going on in New York and how these bongs were really sought after, and they're very expensive bongs, and they definitely
As great art is always valued.
absolutely and expensive within that community, and I could see that there could be a nice crossover into the art community, and I think that these are really I like the idea that they're also bongs, but they are like works of art, and they should definitely make a nice transition into legit art.
Well, Greg, you posited that this is part of this, like you call it the psychedelic art movement?
Psychedelic visionary.
Psychedelic visionary art movement. Banjo, are you a visionary artist?
I could probably go with that.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
But by the definitions of other artists who have been referred to as visionary artists and what they're doing, I'm going with that. It's been recent in my career. I've been getting close to 18 years, and I entered it from a real countercultural craftsman sort of way.
You didn't take the,
I had no intention to make art when I began blowing
You didn't
glass.
start on the Dale Chihuly Highway.
No. What we're doing is in spite of that, in a sense.
Wow.
There's pipes all the way.
You're just making pipes.
Yeah, little bitty ones, like for $5 to your friend first. That's where it starts. And then, at that time in the 90s, the pipe culture had really just begun. This form of glass art, of manipulating this kind of glass in front of a torch, that's only been happening in the U.S. for a few decades. And so
Wow.
right now, glass pipe art as it is, I'd say is around 20 years old. So it's very fresh. So I began at 18 years ago. Maybe 25 years old. But
So you're really just the cutting edge of this whole one aspect of this.
I'm not
visionary
alone,
movement.
but I'm up there. I gotta say, yeah, I'm
There's
pretty
a
much
good
on the cutting edge.
handful of
But there's a
artists,
good,
but
yeah.
he's
There
definitely
are.
on the top
I
of
think
the-
there's 20 or 30 people that are positioned similarly, at least with the work they're making, and we're all in a different place as far as how we contextualize it and whether we frame it in an artistic way or not. A lot of people are still sort of like tattoo art or motorcycle building. You don't really have to justify it because we sell the shit as soon as we make it. Like you start out selling it right away. So I came out of art school. I dropped out of art school because it just didn't. I couldn't figure out. It didn't attract me. I couldn't do the thing where you talked about what you're making and the critiques are like, yes, you did it. I just was gone. And when you find glass pipes, it doesn't need to be justified. You don't have to have it critiqued. You don't have to defend it or any of that. It just sells because it's a utilitarian object, So right there is, we're making it without having to defend it. And that continued for 18 years. I've only begun to think about it in an artistic way in the last year or two as I've seen these opportunities open up. I've, in the last year, made more advances and inroads into my creative territory where thing comes from. I've been focusing on design and just creating these things that are awesome looking so I could feed my family. In the last couple of years, it's like I see the cresting over and different people are taking note, and so it's caused me to look at it in a different way. And now I've been discovering the artist in here in a way, the inner artist, and ways in which even speaking about, what's going on in my life when I make a piece can bring enough meaning and enough context to that piece to get me by. If I'd known that in art school, I might have just started bullshitting around whatever was going on in my life then and told them that and showed them what I made, and I might have passed and got accepted for my MFA. I don't know, but at this point now it's a little late, but I'm 40 and hey, let's do art.
You're past the MFA threshold, that's for sure.
I'm curious, I know a teeny bit about glass. Are you blowing it? Do you have different colors that you wrap together?
Yep.
Do you do
Yes,
like
to both of
Murano
those.
style?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
like candy making, rolling them together.
Yeah,
and
I'd say
cutting them up?
Murano is that is definitely our forebears, you know, Venetian lamp working. Real quickly, there's basically two kinds of glass working. One of them is the big hot cauldron you've seen on TV, and you pull a big hot metal thing, and there's the big dudes with the giant vases and stuff. That's a certain kind of glass, and it melts at a lower temperature than the kind of glass that we use, borosilicate, which is laboratory glass originally, like, you know, scientific apparatus and stuff. Much higher melting point. And so that stuff, you have a bench burner or a torch right in front of you that burns hot flame, and then you heat the glass with that flame to get it to move. And so as soon as you take it out of the flame, it'll start cooling down right away. And so it's kind of like clay in a sense where, you know, you have a certain time frame, it's wet and it's drying out, you got to shape it with glass. Every time you heat it up, it's like getting the clay wet. And then you can take it out of the flame and it cools down and hardens, but you could do that infinite times. So you have all this control, making all these tons of little bitty pieces, and then carefully sticking them together one by one. You can put one piece on, set it in the kiln, wait, it has to stay at a certain temperature, it'll crack, and then pull it out of the kiln in a minute, put a couple more pieces on. Some of these pieces have upwards of 2,000 individual pieces in them.
Wow.
But it begins with long tubes of clear glass and long rods of clear glass. And then we have these pencil diameter 2-foot long rods of colored glass, which was basically clear glass and a bunch of different minerals like for pottery glazes and stuff. Like they developed how to get these minerals to set in the glass and refract certain wavelengths so you see green or red. But basically we start with these 2-foot long sticks of colored glass and we apply it to the clear glass is one pretty common way. Then we have that clear glass and heat it up and pull it out like taffy.
Yeah.
And the smaller stuff, and then you can take that, you're like all those little horns around the outside. That piece began as just long flat pieces of taffy looking cane, you know? And it began as a big patty that was this big with just some lines on it, about like that. Heat the whole thing up and draw it out till it's about that wide, and then each of those gets cut into a little piece and pulled into a little horn. And then those little horns have a little thing added to it and stuck to that.
Do you sketch these out before?
I never really did, unless there was something I just could not get all the way ahead of in my mind.
And
you
how
know?
about when you're doing collaborations? Do you guys kind of
Yeah,
have an idea
yeah.
of where you're
It seems
going?
like I'm always lucky enough that a lot of the people I collaborate with just seem to be good drawers. So
Yeah.
they'll start sketching around, and we're like, yeah, look at that. But for me, it's almost like easier to sketch with the glass, which is a slow process when you get to pieces that are this involved. You know,
Yeah.
because sometimes you're like sketch it and you build it. After a few days, you say, oh shit.
I
You
mean,
have to
that's the
basically
thing
take it
about these
apart.
pieces. They're so intricate and there's so many individual pieces that go into it that,
It's,
yeah.
What now? I'm assuming that in the glass industry, one doesn't get a broken heart when one breaks a piece.
oh yes, one does.
Oh, one does.
Yeah.
I can,
Oh, yes.
In the
yeah.
process, like, wait, you're just starting out
You're
making these
spending-
little parts. If one breaks, you just go make a little part, another little part.
Yeah, my heart doesn't break if like one of those little nut-shaped things breaks, like on that piece there. But like if you know
The whole thing.
that piece accidentally snaps off or something happens, there's things in glass that can happen where something will shock and crack, and there's just no going back, and you've already done all this work around the outside of the vessel. So I'm pretty lucky. I haven't lost any major ones.
Can you saw off the good part and
Yeah.
and save it for another
Yeah,
piece?
to an extent, yeah. There's a lot of that can happen.
That's called cheating.
No, shut up!
Called being a
Not.
master.
So, you know, earlier this week, there was a tiny bit of good news relative to the bad news. This is early November 2016. If you're watching this, our show's archived on YouTube, a website, and modernartblitz.com. But earlier this week, marijuana was legalized in the state of California. Have you followed this election? And is this gonna help business?
I try not to pay attention. No,
No?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I've been following it, and it's absolutely helping business. The more that marijuana is appreciated for its qualities, just like any other, you know.
But wasn't it already
Elements.
kind of legal?
It was already medical marijuana, right?
Right. But
Right.
that was, you know,
And so this changed it to.
it seems to be just increasingly pushing forward. The more acceptable it becomes publicly, then the more acceptable our art becomes, you know. And the whole reason, I mean, there's a big divide in the glass community, not so much now, but for years, there's this Glass Art Society, which is a nonprofit. It's basically Chihuli's and all that, you know, everybody who's ever done glass. And they pretty much ostracized glassblowers, pipe makers, the entire time. Like, they had
Really?
no interest.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny, I'm talking about them, but I accepted an opportunity to go speak at the gas conference next summer. They've taken note now because we're making so much more money than most of them are, and honestly,
And
we're
the
what's
work
going
is
on.
insane.
Yeah.
I mean, what at a certain point, like how
Pipe
many
makers are
ashtrays?
hourglass.
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
got
exactly,
ashtrays
exactly.
and paperweights and vases, and then what else?
Yep.
And you guys are taking it in a whole different way.
It's so untapped. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important. So,
Are any of the quote unquote masters of glass turning to you and saying, hey man, can you help me with this bong theory? Like, where does the water go?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my biggest heroes, Robert Nicholson, was a non-pipe making glass artist and does the same style of glass that we do. And he just amazing artist. He made non-functional work all through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 5 or 6 years ago, he's always been real supportive and always recognized the artistry and the passion and the vibe and everything about our scene. He was doing really well with his non-pipe work. And when the bubble and the housing thing kind of went shitty 8, 9 years ago, a lot of that clientele just sort of, I've got enough glass. And so he has friends in the glass community, and he started talking to us, and another friend of mine, Salt, who's another amazing just master in our trade, somehow helped Robert see that dipping his water in the pool might be nice. He jumped in, and next thing you know, Robert's with us. Like, we've been making, he's been a pipe maker now for 5 or 6 years, having fun, learning new techniques. And to answer the question, absolutely. He's gone to all the pipe makers around the country and been learning and, getting all of
And they're learning from him probably too,
Of course,
right?
if they're smart, they are. I mean,
If they're smart.
I was learning from him just by looking at photographs of what his work looked like before we ever met him. So, yeah, it's awesome. That's one example. Like, definitely widely considered to be a master in the old tradition, non-functional. And not only did he ask for a little advice, he just completely came right over and was like, "Here we are."
Wow.
I'm doing it.
Awesome. Do you take commissions?
I try not to. I get into bad habits with it, but I've been pretty good the last year or two. Where,
And just letting your own spirit
I
manifest.
prefer to. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really, the checklist here towards fine art is like, okay, you're following you were the controversial one against the establishment. That's good. Okay.
There's a lot of us, too.
You don't take commissions. Like, I'm going to follow my own vision. You were able to talk about ISIS, and you have the theory, and then and also the craft side of it. So this is pretty much fine art. Greg, and in the contemporary art world, you just had this show. Did you discover banjo?
Well, I mean, maybe for an art gallery, maybe so, because I don't know if he's showed, or if
That's my first show.
or if any of these
ever.
other guys that are pipe
Nice.
makers got
I've
showed.
not even done shows in my own community. That was literally my first glass
Wow.
And the show Banjo and Friends was at the Gregorio Escalante Gallery, and the other visionary artists that were in there, you know every other artist that was in the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some of
and-
them better than others, but we've become acquainted, and through the show, we've been mutual fans of each other for longer than we met. And then when this show came up, I wanted to have something on the walls.
And then we also, somehow Rick Griffin came to
Yeah.
us. Someone had a major Rick Griffin piece, this guy from the Further Collective,
Brian Chambers.
Yeah,
Not
Brian
to
Chambers.
mention, he brought down a couple Mars Ones.
And Mars Ones that were a big hit. This community totally knew Mars One, and they knew Rick
Oh, yeah.
Griffin, and they
Oh, yeah.
Alex Gray, and so they're appreciating that art that I consider, to me,
Real
like
art.
really real fine art.
So do you see the? Oh, look, we're at the opening.
Wow.
This is at the opening here. Wow. There's everybody. Wow. So who's in the photo here?
That's Amanda there on the left,
Okay.
Amanda Sage, and then that's Eli.
Oh, I know Eli.
Eli, yep. That's Alex Gray's manager and good buddy. And that's my beautiful wife right there, the goddess
one's
in the
Eli?
red. Eli is there with the little derby and the smart glasses.
Behind the camera.
All right.
Yeah.
Behind camera too.
And then that's Phil Siegel, another total visionary glass artist in the scene who I love very much as a friend and a fellow craftsman. And there I am with my Kesey shirt. He's represented. It's Ken Kesey. He says, what
Yeah.
would Kesey do? He's pretty much one of our patron saints.
Of course.
We have Joe Bob. He's also an artist, partners with Amanda Sage. They do a lot of work together, and he also has his own amazing just take on life and vision.
Wait, which
and
one's
then
Joe Bob?
Joe Bob's in between me and Joe. And then that's Joe Peters there
Okay.
on the right, another visionary, amazing, just a master craftsman.
Joe
absolutely.
Peters is the guy to the right.
Yep, he's the one that made the giant Sedna with me,
Yeah.
the sea life, and
Yeah.
also the Nokomis, the rainbow with the crystals coming out and
Yeah.
holding the earth. Yeah, another just absolutely one of my favorite people and artists in the world. Love you, Joe. Hope you're watching.
There you are twice.
I'll show it to you later.
So now, are you enjoying the art establishment? Have you been embraced by the fine art establishment?
I wouldn't say so in any way at all. I don't know. Yeah.
Is the art world like on your case?
I don't think so.
No?
I will
Greg's
say,
they got a little more work to do before that.
They seem.
well, the people
They
who
all
are
came
coming
in and they love it.
Okay, I
that
would
I've
say
seen.
that
That answers
the reaction to on mainstream media is like, whoa, this is incredible. And then the people who come into the gallery and stuff are amazed. And many of them don't know that they're smoking devices. So they just assume that they're sculptural pieces, which they are. And they're not, completely impressed with the work. So I would say that we're
some
like
people
this
come in-
close to like just making that leap
Yeah,
over.
and some people come in and they know all about the glass, but they've never seen it. Like the skill level is so high that they're
Exactly.
blown away more
Now,
than anyone.
do you
And people
have,
know
do you
about.
have test crumbs there for people so they can test out which unit they want to try?
No.
No.
They know it's going to work just fine.
So
As soon
basically,
as they
think
hand the
that's-
money over, then we test it out.
so wait,
It's interesting because these you don't you don't smoke traditional like
Tobacco?
well no you don't
Oh.
smoke. I mean they're really for dabs.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
What's
Dab?
dab?
what's a dab?
It's hash oil.
Oh, and I have a
Hash
story.
oil.
You remember
Oh, I
hash
remember
oil
hash
back
oil.
in the good old days? Well, nowadays there's like 500 different amazing ways to make it, from like using all kinds of industrial grade solvents to heating it up to hot pieces of metal and squishing a nugget of weed together between them, and then it oozes out some juice. That juice is collected up, and then there's you can take the nuggets and your trim from processing marijuana after you've grown it. After you sell the buds off, you can take all of the leftover trim and then do a process where you mix it with ice and bust it all up, and all the crystals freeze and fall off of the leaves. Then you can strain that water through these silk screens, basically, and what's collected is all of those little trichomes and crystals. So there's another hash. You can take that hash and then even squeeze that between a couple of hot plates and squeeze some juice out of that. Basically everybody's smoking hash nowadays through glass pipes mostly. Wow. And so
Back to hash.
So is that what a vape pen
Yes.
is? So it's basically hash oil that has. So I know that some of them, because I've been reading about this, I read a lot.
It's up, yeah.
Yeah, there's like different. They can re-add in different flavanols and terpenes
Yes,
and stuff.
yes.
Why wouldn't you just burn regular old weed in one of these?
I smoke joints mostly.
Oh, okay.
Myself, and these huge things like those, basically the oil market and the people who buy and sell oil and smoke oil and prefer oil to joints and flowers are really, in large part, driving the glass heady pipe.
Prior
Seen in the last 5 or 6 years.
Prior to the election earlier this week, this conversation would have been a felony.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I feel a lot freer
Yeah,
to
yeah.
discuss
Having
this. So with the legalization of weed and apparently wax, is
I don't
wax
know.
legal?
I'm
I don't
not
know.
sure.
I didn't read the law.
Yeah.
I don't know. Help.
Yeah,
I know the
Oh,
weed
geez.
I smoke's legal now.
Well, I know
For me, and under an ounce,
medically
and under-
you can
under an ounce.
you can have vape pens. If you have a medical marijuana prescription, you can buy vape pens in Los Angeles.
Really?
Yes,
Well, okay. I don't know if that makes it legal in
You can
the
do that
city of
throughout
Whittier, but
California.
throughout California.
throughout
Okay.
California. Okay.
Okay.
We voted. It was Prop 64, right?
Pretty much. I mean, everything's
Nope.
pretty much going
All
to be
right.
the same, except you can walk into a place without a license. You
Now,
don't have to do-
when, Greg, as a gallery owner, when do you think the state of California is going to legalize art?
Tougher road to hoe.
Oh my God! Yeah, don't even go there, Matt. I got kicked off Facebook for posting a fully clothed Vargas girl. Vargas is one of the greatest American artists. Fully clothed, boom. That's offensive.
Lisa,
Yes.
because your friend list of 5,000 people is 4,900 frenemies.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Sorry.
So, but
What are we looking at here?
wow.
There is
my
that's actually a Devi cycler, where I call it. It's kind of one of my more easier to acquire projects. And this year I really spent a lot of energy trying to compress some of the aesthetics that I've been working on a larger scale down into a smaller package. Right now, a lot of the people who are supporting this art are in their early 20s. Some of them don't even have cars or houses yet, but they will spend $20,000 or $30,000 on one of these, and
Wow.
they carry it around in a gun case
yeah.
and bring it to the friends' houses and sesh it and share them. I mean, this art thing is crazy. I mean, how many people, how much art do you see that gets handled and passed around the room
In a ceremony.
in a ceremony?
You can't take a Warhol to the ceremony.
No.
You just can't.
Not unless
There's
you
no.
wanna
It's
use it
it's
as a rolling
unfunctional.
tray or something.
Yeah. You can't roll it. You can
wipe
roll
it
a
around
joint
with
on the double albums. You could roll the joint on,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, and how big is this piece?
That one there's about this big. I think that one's actually for sale over in Riverside at Rodeo Smoke Shop. I'm gonna put a little plug out for Sammy.
There you
and
go.
he's having a snack shop party tomorrow, Riverside. If anybody's interested in any of this kind of art, it's going off.
Yeah.
All the time. There's hundreds of head shops around the country, and
And you're at the higher end.
yeah.
So the only higher end question to ask, of course, is when do you predict Dale Chihuly's studio will make a bong? Not going to happen?
It'd be too embarrassing for him.
Really? Really?
Never. He's made enough. He made enough off his name in the first place. He pretty much sold the name and began making garbage production glass under the name for a number of years. This has been at least 5 years or 10 years. I don't know. Dale is like the reason we all have jobs. He was the first one to bring that rock star kind of attitude into glass. In the contemporary glass studio art scene in the 70s. Partiers they brought over a lot of these techniques of manipulating the glass from Italy. So Dale was somebody that I believe worked under some of these Italian masters. He came back over here and kind of in the 70s art movement sort of environment really made glass blowing cool in that way. But, he lost his eye in the auto wreck and was kind of more of a composer or conductor for a lot of years, had a team of really skilled people, and some of his people went on to become their own really famous, finally in the 90s, we sort of inherited a lot of that legacy, but we took it from there, and it didn't really go much further from there. It's big, beautiful plates, and
We got the art historical pedigree here too, with arguing with the
This
mask.
is so awesome.
Bring it
Wow.
that one is, we call that the solstice, Debbie. She was made on the solstice this summer, which is actually the first solstice with a full moon, I think, in a number of years.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's made with Phil Siegel and my good friend Tyson Peltzer, and a couple students from a class we were teaching helped with some of the stuff on it. So we made that during the class session earlier this year.
Wait, for kids at a college?
No.
You had your own
private seminar.
a private seminar. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say that would
coming.
be liberal arts if ever
It's
there was
coming.
one.
Yeah.
So, wait, how big is this one?
That one's probably about yay big.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And you don't make art every solstice.
I don't even
Equinox. No, you don't line
Not
these things up.
intentionally. No, this is just when the class fell. Yeah, it fell on that day, and
The magic happened.
yeah.
And so how long did this piece take to make?
We spent 4 days on it. 4 of us actually were going pretty much 12 hours a day.
Wow.
So we had 48 hours per day, 4 days. Yeah, there's a couple hundred hours in that one.
Let's look at the next slide. There was something. Okay, now we've got the trio here.
Yeah.
And so now the ones on the right, they're about 6 inches high, right?
Yep, 7
7 inch. Okay.
Yep.
And then you got a little bigger one there in the center.
Yeah.
So is this kind of you got the altarpiece effect with this presentation?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is presentation important to you?
I'm being convinced that it's more and more important by the folks that are trying to move my glass into
the art
collectors'
world.
hands. Presentation in Gregorio Escalante Gallery was the first. It's the first time that, I've had an entire body of work displayed in that.
And it looked amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I know, it was great.
I've been part of a couple of other shows where I had some pieces, but this was the first one that I took on as,
You.
it's either going to be good or bad, and it's going to be completely because of me.
And I got introduced to banjo from this guy from John Swihart's party named Alex Raina.
Oh, so you met at John Swihart at a barbecue?
Yeah, at his art potluck party, and then this Alex guy that I had seen there a bunch of times and barely talked to him, and then he started talking to me about banjo, and
Alex
it
is
just
the
was
man.
hitting me right on the head. It just
So
made
so
some
Alex
sense.
is your pitch man.
Alex is my boy. Alex is my favorite glass art photographer in the world. There's 6 or 7, maybe a dozen people trying to make a real go at photographing glass pipes right now, and Alex has been, he's really just been the standout for me, and personally we're really good friends and just love what he's about. But he introduced me to he invited me to this potluck, this Swihart thing. He said, "Hey, I got a buddy, maybe an opportunity for you to show your work to a different crowd. The LA art scene, you never know. Greg Escalante, the co-founder of Juxtapose, a regular attendee, you never know. Come." And so I was like, all right, sure, I'll do this thing.
Sounds fun to me.
And then he calls me the next week. He's like, yeah, you never know, maybe we'll get a show there or something. I'm gonna go hit him up. I was like, okay. And then next thing I was like, yeah, I went and showed him pictures of my phone. And he was like, down with it. So next thing you know, I'm talking to Greg on the phone. We had a long, great conversation. And
You just hit it off.
yeah.
Awesome.
Who wouldn't hit it off with someone like Banjo?
Who wouldn't hit up with someone like Greg? I want to be, this has been a deliberate, a couple years ago I did a thing at Basel where we kind of got together. And
In Miami?
Yeah, a pop-up thing, not affiliated, but at the same time. And
During the Basel Art
Yes.
Fair, there are
Yeah.
many satellite events. You were one of the
one
pop-up
of
satellite
them.
events.
Right,
Great.
and I just got a good take on it. Went really hard and gave a lot of energy out to trying to make work and figure out what that art world wants to see and what's the kind of work that they're going to buy. And I made some beautiful stuff that I was happy with, and we didn't really have the right people even come and look at it, We
that happens a lot.
juxtaposed ad, and Gwyn came by and she liked us and we talked to her and she left, but no action whatsoever. I went home to the woods, those woods, and was just like, I'm not fucking gonna ever go that far outside of myself and compromise, anything to try and make stuff for any outside thing. And I sort of make an intention that I'm just gonna make whatever it is I like to make. I'm gonna sell it to people I absolutely know want it and will buy it. And then if anybody or anything from the outside art world or any of those possibilities are ever in my path, then they're just going to come to me, because I went so hard that year, all my energy out to try and go to them. And so when I came home and made that intention, in that year, 2 weeks later, I had a call from my hero, Alex Gray. Somebody had put us together.
Amazing artist.
Yeah.
My favorite, probably my most, definitely my biggest inspiration artistically. On many levels, not just the imagery, but also with his mission, his intention, and the reason he makes his art and shares it. So we had a mutual fan and collector that wanted to put us together for a collaboration and somehow talked us both into it, more or less, before we ever connected. So then we connected. I went over and was artist in residence at Cosm for 4 or 5 days. And he and I basically just connected and talked art and talked work and planned out a few different projects where I would communicate some of the ideas and the aesthetics and things he's worked hard to establish out of glass, and then he accompanied some of these ceremonial pipes we made with.
So Alex Gray had a vision in glass, and you were able to fabricate it.
He's
for him.
got so many visions at this point. We haven't even begun.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, we've just started, and this show came up, and so all my energy went into. We made one little series of pieces, but through hanging out with him, I realized what I had missed, or hadn't quite become aware of in my 15, 16 years as a craftsman, was what in here I would communicate or share that would help contextualize the work in a way that people could, connect to it in a way deeper than this is a really cool design, or this is a really awesome looking, Boba Fett helmet you made or whatever. And so Alex, it sort of clicked with me. I never could quite make it work with my art critiques in college. I made great work and all my teachers loved the stuff. I made banjos, I made guitars, metalsmithing, pottery, drawing. I did all the different things you do, but I didn't have any sense of personal mission or what I have to offer the world at that point. I was 18, 19, 20, 21. So my art school friends are graduating and going and getting jobs scrubbing, the fucking green stuff off David's balls on the sculpture in the county, in the park in the square, and they're all just basically getting less and less artistic throughout the whole 10 years after college. I just dropped out of college and started rolling and eating LSD and mushrooms with the hippies on the West Coast, not thinking about art or any of that. Found out I was having a kid. Glass blowing seemed to be a better way to make money than selling weed and weaving hemp necklaces and trying to sell them to people on the street at some hemp festival. Mm-hmm. And so I started making these glass pipes, and all of the experience that I had traveling and all of the, I was an art history major for 2.5 years before I switched over to sculpture and photography. So I really took a lot in, all the way from the caves in France up until about the 1800s when I really focused in on my sculpture. So I actually never got any schooling on much from the 1800s, no modern art, any of it. And so when I entered into this glass pipe thing, I really just had all the aesthetics. I was always drawn to Hieronymus Bosch and any kind of visionary sort of weird stuff throughout the years, Hindu art and Indian art and Buddhist art. My mom is a world traveler and a collector of a million arts. She has trinkets and things from just countless traditions. But in any case, I spent 15 years more or less not being able to connect any kind of personal narrative to what I was making, because I knew I hadn't quite reached it. I was having kids. I have 6 kids and a wife, and I'm definitely a leader in my community. I'm one of them.
Where do you live?
In Humboldt County.
Humboldt County, Northern California?
Where in Humboldt?
Trinidad, pretty near
I know
Arcata.
yeah.
Now there's a lot of growing going on there.
Yeah.
And so you're basically, are you around your fine art collector base
I don't
in
have
Humboldt?
any yet. Yeah, I don't have any yet. I
No,
mean, but the fine art collector base.
I mean, do the farmers?
Oh,
do,
no.
do people who grow marijuana? Do they have enough? Do they make enough money growing marijuana that they can afford your?
Yes,
your
they
bongs?
do, but they don't.
They do,
They don't
but
buy
they
it.
don't.
No,
They have
no.
a different aesthetic.
Yes, in my area,
They're buying pop art, right?
no, they're buying 4-wheel drive diesel trucks and,
Right, yeah, and big
4
screen
more
TVs.
greenhouses and another 80 acres and
Okay,
and
okay.
a trip to Bali and then maybe a trip over to do some yoga over in India, but they generally don't buy it.
There's not the farmer.
No, they're farmers.
Psychology.
They're farmers.
They are farmers.
Yes, yeah.
The pot growers are. If you don't have the farmer gene in you, you're not going to be a good pot grower.
No,
Nope.
no, not at all.
But you're going to be a.
You don't buy luxurious stuff.
And if you
you're a farmer.
do, you're going to be a lousy art collector.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
I
so-
mean, the homies have, like, you know, they have like some sweet little pieces for them, but this kind of crazy stuff that's been, no, they fell off a few $100s is what they like to spend.
Who is your alpha art collector?
The alpha art collector, it really ranges. They're 18 to in their 40s. A lot of people who are my age who collect it have been into it for a long time. But right now, the demographic is like changing so fast and diversifying so quickly. I mean,
With the legalization.
no, just with the
awareness
the
of
continuing
it.
awareness and you know, blossoming and
Do you find that the collector for you, though, is pot central to their life?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pot is central to their life, so for
Way.
them, this is like
pot
an
is-
homage
yeah.
to what
Hash
they do.
is life
Okay.
for my collector.
Yeah.
So you've got a wake and bake base.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's my base.
Unabashedly.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
like a counterculture that's very quickly becoming an established culture.
It
I mean,
absolutely
it's-
is.
Yeah.
It's marijuana culture. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like any
Absolutely, and it's
counterculture,
huge. I
it's
mean,
been
it's-
marginalized and
It's
nothing
been
you can
here
do.
for
but-
a long time.
been
but
here for at least
it's
40 years.
nationwide.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
you
yeah.
know.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Ante Gallery have plans for any visionary art shows in the near future?
Yeah.
Ooh, tell us.
The one that opens on December 8th, which is Myron Dial. And Chet Czar curates a show, and Myron Dial is dark realism because he has epilepsy, and in his epilepsy episodes, he has visions of like kind of the same reoccurring creatures and people and that look like demons and things, and he has conversations with them, and so he created them for like 30 years in hiding. It was his vision, and then maybe some psychiatrist lady, maybe named Judy Spence, talked him into going public with it, and then he's did a 180, retired from his corporate job, so he doesn't worry about like being a weirdo. So we're and I first saw it in the basement of his house, so I'm recreating it in the basement of my gallery. And then upstairs, Chet Czar, sort of one of the biggest guys in dark surrealism, where people use their imagination to create dark areas. It's going to be upstairs with a big group show. So that's another vision. I think I like art that shows another dimension.
Greg, this is your Christmas show.
Yeah, it's the Nightmare Before
what I
Christmas.
said.
It is the Nightmare.
It's
Before
called The Nightmare Before
No,
Christmas?
it's not called that. It's called Dark.
Because that's taken.
Yeah, dark realism / dark surrealism, but it is the Nightmare Before Christmas
Yeah.
show. My goal is kind of to show the creepiest possible art. So I went and I would see those artists' things, and normally you'd say, these two are too gnarly, and maybe I can sell this one. No, I want the gnarliest one for that. We're not showing this stuff. So, I don't know if it'll make any money, but I wanted to make us like it just was something that had to be done.
Heidi, how do you, as an artist manager,
Publicist.
as a publicist,
Yeah.
how do you pitch a show that dark? Especially
Well,
what's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year.
Well, I did say, can't we do this in October?
No, but it works out perfectly given the,
Far be it from the
general
client to
political
co-
sentiment now. It's
Well, now with what's going on, I think. I'll
Are we
have no
living in dark
problem.
times?
We're in dark times. I think it's more about the artist than less about the. I mean, you know, I think like Myron is a really interesting artist, and the work is like fascinating. So I mean, that's really like the main pitch for me, and I think it's work that people wouldn't normally see. I think the one thing about Greg is that he brings together artists that. That you wouldn't, you know, some that you've seen a lot, but with artists that you wouldn't normally see. Do you know what I mean? So that's always an interesting show. You know.
I like the pairings at the gallery. I
agree.
like the idea that one doesn't have to have reached a level of success or art world, you know, trendiness to be showing with another artist of that particular caliber, as random as these things end up
Right.
being. So that's what I've always appreciated about your curatorial style, Greg. I don't know about what's your curatorial style like lately?
well, I haven't curated anything recently.
Hey, what's up with that? You bought a house though. You were busy on the real estate market.
Yeah, and I have my thanks to Dronebox, I now have my own talk show on Sunday nights.
Wait, you have another talk show? You're competing with me?
No, I'm on
Get off
after.
my stage!
Matt, you pitched it to them. Were you in a fugue state?
No, I said, I think Lisa
He was
is
on
ready.
dabs.
The wax
Sand dabs.
closed.
It was the scent from the dispensary next door.
Yeah, there is a dispensary
I
next door.
noticed that. I
Yeah.
strolled right in thinking it was this place.
Just like
what a
habit.
Some
Like-
good drug. I was like, oh.
So we've got just a little bit of time left, and I do want to thank Heidi Johnson and Greg Escalante, and of course Banjo. Now, Banjo, do you ever, in the museum placards, when you finally make the museum, it's going to say Banjo, and then in parentheses, it's going to say your real name. Do you want to give out your real name now?
No, it slipped out once or twice.
Yeah,
but-
once or twice. It's
No.
out there. If somebody's a fierce Googler, they can
Oh,
find
yeah.
it. Make them work.
Yeah.
Make them work for that.
Yeah.
I say.
Pretty much.
Banjo Glass, you'll
Yeah.
find it.
The advantage of an
I'm
alias
still
is make them
underground,
work.
and it's funny, this opportunity even, I started to say, I've been in a craft community, I've refinanced my house, my life is great, I do well, and the decision to come into this world, it's because of who it was that hit me up, because of, I honestly honored Greg's liking my work, and I felt that it reached him on a real level. And
It's a hell of an endorsement.
Yeah.
and I felt, okay, well, there's something that's worth sharing. And I feel like even the conversations that come up about anime, I'm very fresh in trying to use my platform to bring up conversation and things that I feel are useful for humanity and for
Yeah.
people who are trying to grow and become better people. And the glass scene is an incredible scene. And when I start mentioning the different musics and stuff, it's like we like to say that everybody's into it and everybody's into glass, but it's like glass actually is a big enough container to hold everything that comes towards it. And you guys have felt that vibe just from the couple shows you've come to.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't seen anything like that,
It was
It
pretty
embraces
magical
everybody.
scene,
So it's
yeah.
like, it embraces hip hop, it embraces heavy metal, it embraces punk rock, it embraces hippie music, it embraces non-music, it embraces everything. It's an ultimate ADD sport. There's so many things to keep track of that, the weight and all the things that your mind, you can just sit there a minute because you're occupied, There's gravity, it's good.
That's the
That made no
amazing thing about glass. It's actually such a slow-moving liquid, and it's constantly moving and
true.
evolving, and your
Yeah.
art shows that.
Banjo, thank you so much for joining us on Modern Art Blitz.
Thank you for the
My
opportunity.
co-host, Lisa Derrick. We stream live. Actually, this was a special episode. We taped it on a Friday, at 6. But we normally, Sundays, live at 5 on
5,
dronebox.com.
dronebox.com.
We tape this live at the Dronebox Studios, hidden in the hills of Bel Air, California. You'll have to work a little harder to find out where we really are. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are archived on youtube.com. It's a website, modernartblitz.com. We're out.